I support the delivery of the Crédit Agricole project in Manosque, and I will be presenting the whole team because we're all part of the contracting, we're the contractors. We are engineering consultants in charge of the environmental side of things, but the architects are represented here today with Christian Marx and Bernard Brault. Gilles Wagner from ADRE is the fluids engineer working on this project. Then BTREC, the consultancy in charge of structure, roads and utilities and economy. We've got a landscape designer, Isabelle Drault, and the team also includes a graphic designer working on questions of signage and communication. And finally, the contracting authority, le Crédit Agricole, is represented by Mr. Muller. He will be telling you a few words about the context of the project and the reason why it was initiated. Good morning, Crédit Agricole. Just to specify, for those of you who might not be familiar with our company, we are the Provence-Côte d'Azur Crédit Agricole, so we work across 3 départements, Alpes-Maritimes, Var, and Alpes-de-Haute-Provence. So we employ 2,600 staff. We have 220 branches and 3 administrative sites in Manosque, Nice, and Draguignan. So this project we're looking at today is a project for the construction of our new administrative site in Manosque. We used to have 6,000 square meters for 100 staff. The building had been made in the 70s, and because it was very ineffective energetically, we decided to build new premises closer to the motorway. So we opened up a competition which was won by the R+4 agency. We chose them among 6 projects because we believed that this was the most interesting project in terms of construction and communication, because we also wanted this building to be a hub of communication for Crédit Agricole. So we thought this was the most attractive proposal. The competition also included the BDM label. So right from the outset, this is the 3rd project we've delivered under the BDM framework. So we are regulars, so to say, and we are really interested in this approach. Our interest in BDM fits within our corporate social responsibility approach, which goes beyond construction. Of course, a bank's objective is not to build. We're not property developers, and we're not public authorities, but we do get opportunities to build, but this is not the core of our business. But we do have a corporate social responsibility policy that covers the entirety of our operations. So, for instance, as part of this project, we've carried out a study on mobility across all our staff to understand, out of our 2,600 staff, to understand how these people commute and where they live, how they move about, what modes of transport they use to go to work. And we'll use this information to, for instance, for our work on mobility. Today, we are equipping all our staff with microcomputers so that they can just work in any branch of our bank. So this is something we really want to explore as part of our CSR. We want to work on mobility to try and reduce travel time as much as we can.
I know that we're short of time, so I am going to hand over back now. So I wanted to give you some contextual information. We are located in Manosque, in the Durance Valley. The project is located in the Technology Park des Grandes Terres, which is just off Manosque. It's quite a flat site. There is very little plant life there, a lot of soil and mineral. There are a lot of rocky stones on the site. We have a temporary stream that adds a bit of landscape to our desert environment. The site is easily accessible by car. There are public transport opportunities from Manosque. In the long term, there should be denser activities within the area once the business activity site has grown a little bit. This is a site for 240 staff across 3,500 square meters. As Mr. Muller was saying, the desire to work differently. We want to provide a pleasant working environment for staff with areas and facilities that are not just offices, but with a sports area, a gym, for instance, relaxing areas with links between the indoor and the outdoor rooms as well. I wanted to show you the site location. You can see here, this is the sector, this is the site for the project. Here you've got the Durance River and the motorway exit for Manosque. This is the business area that I was telling you about. And here is the actual site of the project. The sustainable development challenges for the project from the team, but also from the owner's specifications as well. The owner wanted virtuous architecture with bioclimatic approach. We wanted to optimize thermal sunlight, but also ensure comfort. There was an important link between indoors and outdoors, as I said. We have a high-performance envelope for the building with limited carbon footprint. There is geocooling enabled by the close groundwater nearby for watering, etc., and also modularity and diversity of space that was really important. And as we were saying, there has also been a lot of consideration of mobility from the project owner. I'm going to hand over to Bernard and Christian to present the project from its start and then talk about some access issues as well. So we are right at the south of that zone. As you can see, there's the motorway, there's the Durance River, and then a lot of empty space, which serves as a reservoir. We've got our site itself, access within this business area from the north. The idea of the project was to design with the northern entry and the south with this almost ditch. We wanted to have a diagonal access for our project that creates a real square for architectural reasons, if you like. So this diagonal is continued throughout the building to arrive at the terrace and garden area. Why did we do that? There's relatively significant parking requirements, car park requirements at the moment, and we did not want the office space to face the car parks. The employees arrive and they can park their car at the top. The idea of the project was to have parking on one side with tree coverage and then working spaces that are not directly opposite the car parking space. So one of the project aspects was to try and limit the number of parking spaces, so we were actually able to build some of them under the building to reduce that. There was a lot of work on access to have vehicle access, but also entrances for maintenance and also technical facilities. There is a bike park underneath the building in this underground car park that is very highly ventilated. So on the floor plan, you can see the concentrated nature of the car parking space with a lot of vegetation and plant coverage there. As Bernard was saying earlier, we have this main axis that goes through the building over to the outdoor spaces that are very highly landscaped, with a small pond, a lot of plants. You'll see the water, the theme of water throughout the entire building. We wanted to create a reflective water effect, almost like a mirror, which helps to bring water inside the building itself. You can see water in the axis crossing the building. And it also brings coolness outdoors and indoors. In the contractors team, we've also worked with someone who's specialized in fountains and water. We've got water drilling through boreholes for the geo-cooling. So for the technical heating and cooling of the building as well, we're going to be drawing on this groundwater nearby. So the project owner had some concerns with water, mosquitoes, etc. So we wanted to work with a specialist in this area. From a bioclimatic perspective, we're more than 100 meters from the motorway. So we do not have the loud motorway noise from the building position. We verified that with our sound specialist. In the two major wings, that the building is split by this central road, and we've created two wings of work. We've got a small wing on the left and then a larger wing towards the south and the east. We have maximum sunlight input and light that is brought into the inside. We're protected from the wind. We've been working with major bioclimatic data for the development. We have a calc approach that you can see for the building just above to see the impact. This building will receive 8 hours of sunlight in winter, and that's the lowest time, that's the lowest amount of sunlight. There was a lot of work carried out on sun protection, solar protection. You can see the vertical panels in place that has a phenomenon from the motorway. You're able to see the Crédit Agricole logo. So complements were brought in order to provide solar protection whilst incorporating the logo. So for any south-facing spaces, we have these solar protections in place. we've got variable solar protection in these spaces in order to ensure thermal comfort. Another point is that we're in a very industrial business zone with several thousands of square meters just nearby. This is an office building. We wanted to stand out, to be different from the type of industrial building. We have a slightly inwards 2-meter space on the ground floor, which helps differentiate the building from industrial buildings that are very rooted in the ground. The project owner also wanted to be level 3 in their project, so we have roof solar panels and try to cover all uses of the project, regulatory uses and office uses as well. So here are the northern facades. This is a concrete structure build with wood external walls with insulation based on stones on the ground floor. As we were saying earlier, you've got the position of the waste site and the bike shed underground. Here's the floor plan. You can see that there is a vestibule in the north entry. There are external outdoor spaces that extend outwards from most facades. There are some unusual spaces as well, like the gymnasium. We have the relaxation area, open space areas in the wings, and also meeting rooms. We also have a whole technical center here with technical rooms and the maintenance area for Crédit Agricole. Upstairs, you can see open space. As Christian was saying earlier, there's a relaxation room as well, with access to the outdoors, and then this large space, that's large corridor that you can access all of other office spaces from. There are technical rooms and meeting rooms on every single floor. So on the second floor, there is a similar system, and we have additional sunlight systems in place in order to achieve more harmonious lighting across the huge open space. One of the specifications from the project owner was the creation of a floor that could be rented out for and share office space with the Crédit Agricole. And with new ways of working, we will show you the type of space that the project owner wanted. So the cutaway view now, you can see the wood area, the concrete area, and the photovoltaic solar panels. We have these photovoltaic panels that cover these spaces in winter. For operational costs, we have 6.2 million, and we have 920,000 in contractor fees. We have an administrative building. We have B1 for noise, BR1. We have a fully air-conditioned room. We can see a 39% gain for BO and a 41% increase for energy consumption, primary energy consumption. We, in terms of regulatory regulations, we have 186,000 kilowatt production from solar panels, which are able to cover all regulatory and non-regulatory uses. On the basis of our estimations,
Donc on est sur une équipe.
we have a team that has worked with a lot of projects on BDM projects. We've been working on air tightness through specific treated materials from the design phase. We have implemented a number of sensors and counters in order to monitor use throughout the entire building. So these are just some details that we have here for air tightness. We have M2 target, which is perhaps not that high performance, but it goes well beyond regulations, which is 1.7. To look at the social and economy side of BDM, we had increased work for access to people with reduced mobility, with work on the underground car park, the accessibility of outdoor spaces. We have the sound loop in space for those who are hard of hearing. We thought about staff with disability and adapt the project to them. And for professional insertion, the Green Space company working on the project ensures that disabled people are working within that. As you can see, we're running out of time, but I will try to be clear. We have pooled areas on the ground floor, shared spaces. You can see the type of project that we were looking for, the type of space. We have meeting rooms, but also working areas that are a little bit freer. We've got relaxation areas, as I said, and to create ways of enjoying the landscape that are quite open, but then also more private and intimate spaces where people who work remotely can work. For materials, we've got around 8 points. So we've got a concrete structure. Low carbon concrete was selected. We have bio-sourced insulation material that were mixed. We've got soft Flotex type carpets that are made from 100% recycled materials. We have wood on all of the terrace spaces. We were able to reuse some of the earth recovered from the sites. The woods, there are false ceilings for sound that are made of wooden slats and rock slats. The wall insulation is partially made from recycled material, and we worked with a recycling sector. We have around 6 or 7 scoring for outdoor insulation, and we're around 10 for the roof. I'm trying to go quickly now. We have a pack water at the copper 4.5. We have panels with convector ventilators only in the meeting room in order to have a greater power in those rooms. We have a dual flow system through geo-cooling. We have LED lighting, 6 watts per square meter, perhaps a little bit more in certain spaces. I'll talk about summer comfort at another time. So we have all of these sensors and counters that are in place. We are going to try and avoid any problems with remote GTC connection, and are supporting the project owner with a counter table. in order to support data recovery and to ensure that this will be able to continue after the BDM coach has left. So we've got 77.3 kilowatts for primary energy consumption and 52.9 for SDG. We're at less than and we're covered by solar panels. We chose water-saving materials and plants species that are adapted to the area. We've got around 4.2 a consumption of 4.2 per square meter for water consumption. Looking at doors and windows for the various directions, we've got higher distribution in the south facade, but with this rectangular design, we obviously have windows throughout the entire building. We've got this indoor road access that will help airflow. We had a summer comfort simulation with the aspects that we needed to succeed was the use of solar protection, obviously, and the implementation of geocooling in dual flow in order to passively cool all of the spaces and create a comfortable space. Here you have the distribution of solar protections by orientation. Here on the ground floor, you have natural ventilation with a phenomenon of airflow and openings upstairs as well from the sheds with triangular systems in place there. We have a number of scenarios. We have got below 90 hours with geocooling, blinds, the natural ventilation of the indoor road, and we are going to avoid overcooling at night by opening up in order to ensure natural cooling. For the road, we used information to see the temperatures that we obtained for the indoor roads. We have a cooling and heating system along this road in order to provide greater comfort on the absolute warmest days. With regard to our choice for health comfort, for carpets, for instance, we have C1 and quite traditional systems that we often work with. We wanted to do our calculation for the CESBA MED passport. I hope that we properly took into account all of the criteria. We can talk about this. Some of them were not able to be finalized for today, but we will manage this by the end of the week. So for primary energy demands, it's not quite the same indicator, so we'll need to recalculate grey energy use. Delivered thermal energy demand, I don't think we will manage to get that yet. The recycled materials have not yet been entered for some of them. For the thermal comfort indicator, we will provide that with the air-conditioned rate. We will try to compare it with other indicators in order to determine the best approach, as we don't want to always have air-conditioned buildings. The BDM indicator is without air conditioning, so we need to have a tool in place in order to bring all of that and agglomerate that together. I've created our chart. Some of the data is a little bit low. It's because we don't necessarily have all of the results yet, which explains that. I wanted to give you some highlights of the project: thermal and visual comfort, use of site resources, this general desire from the project owner in order to provide a quality working environment. The weaknesses, it's mobility in the sense that the site is a little bit eccentric. It's quite close to the motorway, but there are some public transport options. So it's the main issue that makes it a weakness is that it is far from the city centre of Manosque. You can see here the chart that shows all of the information, all of the areas that we worked on. And here are some bonus points that we wanted to propose. The fact that we have this natural ventilation from over the water pond that we have that transfers that across the ground floor, the working spaces that promote well-being at work, and the creation of this oasis area in a busy business area. Thank you very much, Chantal. There was also Venetek, who was our sound engineer, which I wanted to mention him as well. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you very much to the team. We'll be handing over to questions now. Could we take any questions in the room and from the Commission that are here as well? Who would like to start first? Marcus, yes? Marcus will be speaking in English or in French? Which would you prefer, in English? So please do wear your headsets if you need the French translation.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is about your communication hub and the corporate social responsibility. What does it mean to you? Ah, il a parlé de la RSE, c'est ça, hein? Responsabilité sociale. Monsieur Muller, peut-être, oui. Ouais. Ah oui, d'accord.
Yes, corporate social responsibility is an approach that helps businesses to think about their situation today and to improve it across all sectors of their activity. So I wanted to give you an example. I was talking about mobility earlier, but we have around 100 vehicles that are on site. We have switched a lot of people over to electric vehicles. That is part of our CSR approach. I was talking about workstations. This is also part of our CSR approach because we are changing the workstations to change them to microcomputers that heat less, that gets less hot. So about every 3 months we have a CSR committee meeting that helps us to make progress on all of these areas. To specify as well, when staff travel together to a meeting, they save money compared to when they travel alone in terms of the miles that they can claim back. There are various themes on which the business is working on. We've got an ethical charter within the company on these issues. Has that answered your question, Marcus? I'm not certain. Another question?
I only had a question about the you are in the area of the Durance River. Did this bring any constraints and how did you tackle them? Yes, there were constraints. We are in a PPRI area, in an area of activity that's located just above the emergency, the limit for the water emergency area. So we have no problems on this side. Yes, a more general question on what will happen to the old buildings, to the old building. Where was the old building and what's going to happen to it? And then about the slideshow, your choice of not placing the north at the top is convenient, but it's a bit puzzling. It's an old principle that we like to stick to. The diagonal, I first thought that the diagonal was not actually north to south, which is not the case. About the old building, which is on the other side of Manosque, at on the very opposite side of the city, this is a building that's built on 4 hectares. We've asked for planning permission because the urbanistic plan gave us permission to build housing units. So there will be social housing because there are requirements in terms of social housing, and so the site will be urbanized. Because historically, in the 70s, when we built the branch, this was the countryside, and then the city sprawled around us, so we're not surrounded by urban areas, so the site will be transformed into dwellings. This is because the building itself was ill-adapted, 6,000 square meters for 130 staff in a glass building. At first we thought about renovating it or selling it on as it was, but no one was interested in recycling this building, which is why we're going to demolish it. We're not promoters. We are using an external promoter. We're selling the land, and for we are actually handing this work over to promoters who will be taking care of each lot. So we're only optimizing this site. We are going to be working with, there will be a department of Crédit Agricole in charge of recycling the materials that come from the demolition. We're working in partnership with an association to make sure that everything that can be reused is reused by other people.
And the communication hub. For me, social responsibility means talking with society in some ways. And communication is the same, talking with someone and exchange with someone. But you choose a site in an industrial area where you said you want to be different than the neighbors. And I don't see any communication lines from your side to the neighbors. If I go further, I got the impression that this is a kind of a castle or a modern, very modern monarchical palace. So,
Juste redire d'abord ce qu'il disait, c'est que le principe de RSE, c'est de la communication, c'est parler, se parler, et en fait, nous, on cherche à se démarquer dans le projet par rapport aux autres. Donc, Marcus trouve qu'il y a une distorsion par rapport à ça. Ça, c'est la première phase de la question.
okay, I can continue.
Et après, il n'avait pas fini.
Oui, allez-y.
So, and the next thing is you wanted to create an oasis area. It seems that this oasis is only for your people and for your building. So why not open this oasis to the whole surrounding? in kind of your social responsibility in your communication, but also open the area around for the neighborhood. So this is not a satellite coming from somewhere, it's just a bank in a business area. Why not being the bank of the business area, or to have this kind of exchange and communication with them? And just the impression is also you want to communicate. What the image you give me is cars are more or at least same important than the people. Because if I look at the size of the parking area, it's much bigger than the actual size of the area for the people who are living there for many hours per day, and the cars are just standing there. So my suggestion is to look also from the social responsibility and the communication point, what images you want to give. And I like the idea to have a bank in a business area, but it should reflect this communication issue you want to transport.
Je vais essayer de répondre.
We are not isolated. We are not setting up a bank. These are office buildings that house our production process. So it's not a bank. There's no people, customers coming in and out. It's a production plant. So the fact that we settled there, that's because we're a production site. We're based near the L'Occitane factory that makes natural beauty products. So we chose this site because it was the site was an opportunity for us. It was a way for us of making the most of the available grounds that were there. So there was this techno part, so we decided to work within the city authorities' policy because they wanted to develop this techno park to encourage service businesses to settle in Manosque. So in terms of our relations with our neighbors, we're based next to L'Occitane, and we're going to be sharing our staff restaurants because they have their own restaurant, and we're currently negotiating with them so that our staff, so we're actually going to be going out because we're going to go and have lunch on their premises. About the car park, which you think is very large, we are a company that has a high turnover. We work across 3 départements. We have lots of people who drive in and out, who might not necessarily be working on site. And since the public facilities do not include car parks in the area, there are no public car parks locally. So in order to accommodate all the people who come to visit, we had to build a car park that was slightly larger than what we would have done if we'd been in the city center. In this case, we're just off the motorway. So we are here. This is a situation that depends on the public authorities. I'm being a bit critical here, but as a matter of fact, they want to bring businesses in, but they don't really take care of the overall environment and make sure that they provide appropriate infrastructures. They have actually built a car lift area just outside the motorway, but this is always packed. So for us, we're quite a small player, and we just had to adapt to the local environment. To answer the question, perhaps it's interesting to reflect on whether if this car park is not fully used by your staff, perhaps it could be opened up to meet local needs in the area. This could be a thinking point to perhaps think about sharing the space. And I'm sure this is something we can talk about during the in-use phase, to think about how we can pool resources if we're not fully using them. Another question here. Thank you for this presentation. I like the slide with the north to the side. Actually, it makes you, it forces you to think outside the box. And this was a very clear presentation, so thank you. The project, I won't go back to the location, but I had a question on the construction system. There's something I didn't quite understand. There's quite a lot of polyurethane, which is not a material that I like very much. There is some in the ground floor walls and in the roof. We know all the complexities of this, but couldn't you have used something else on the ground floor? And then, do you have, what is your approach as local stakeholders? Crédit Agricole is known for supporting local investments into the local economy. So have you worked on the, for instance, have you developed wood structures working with local suppliers? To tell you the truth, when we initially designed the project, the 2 floors were to be built with wood structures. And then as we moved forward with the study, we are in the Durance area where there are constraints linked to the site. So we had to build upwards, and we had to choose between either just only using wood for external claddings, or to use a wood structure, but this meant that we would have to reduce the height of the floors by 30 centimeters. And also, this choice was to do with the modularity of the building. If we'd used a wood structure, we really studied this in depth. If we'd done that, we would have needed walls cutting across the open space areas. The building, the construction work is going to start in September, and we do not know in a year's time or 18 months' time how we are still doing workshops with our staff, and we want this to be an open space with poles and floors and full stop, so we couldn't afford to have a wood structure for this reason. About polyurethane, on the ground floor we have a double wall that's made of concrete, insulation, and pebble walls. If we're able to use different, I'm not sure if we will be able to use another insulation material. Just to finish about the height, the question is how urban planning regulations bring about constraints that also influence our choices. So we're talking about sustainable construction, but we should also think about sustainable urban planning to give more freedom to projects like ours. In this case, we were subjected to fairly illogical rules. Another technical question. This is a very nice project about natural cooling, the role played by the water mirror. What work have you done to avoid issues with mosquitoes, as you briefly mentioned? And how is the natural cooling system working? Is this going to require participation from the part of users? About natural cooling, there's only the internal streets, so that we do not have issues with the complexity of the offices. So there will be wind openings on the ground floor, just above the water mirror, to create a draft. There will be a draft flowing above the water. We're not able to quantify and calculate it, but we're all very familiar with this phenomenon. For instance, when you use a wet sheet in front of your fan, There also will be blades on the front facade to improve the ventilation of the ground floor. These will be open at night and closed during the day in the summer. And in the mid-season, I think we'll probably also keep them open during the day. And then all around the building, there will be this pond and water basins that the water will be flowing to avoid mosquitoes. And our team actually recently hired a fountain maker to work on specifically on this issue. I'm actually a local. I'm based in Manosque, and I'm very happy to see this project emerge. I've discovered it today, and I'm very happy to see it come out of the ground. This site is a deserted site on the bank of the river, and there are some impressive buildings nearby. There's the big logistical building of L'Occitane, so it's interesting to add value to this space, which people see when they're driving in from the motorway. So this building should really raise the profile of the site. I have a specific question. You are going to be pumping water from the groundwater of the Durance, and I wasn't aware it was allowed to pump from this groundwater, which is also where drinking water is pumped from for the whole local area. So how can you be allowed to pump from this groundwater? And then another thing, some shades have been built on car parks in the area. Did you consider using shades on the car park? And one last question about Alp wood. Are you using local wood? Yes. Yes, the cladding on the walls will be Alp walls. On the car park, we have better than shades. We're going to be planting trees. We'll be planting oaks because the solar panels are on the roof, on the rooftop. So this is what we're going to use for pumping the water. We've consulted with the person who came to drill for the water. We've just applied for permission, and the water we are pumping, we are also re-injecting into the ground, And we are not actually within the same sector where drinking water is pumped. We're also going to be pumping for watering the plants, and again the water will be re-injected into the ground. This is a very interesting project. You've got quite a high voltage of solar panels. Are you perhaps planning to sell off your excess production of electricity? And what will be your selling price? For the moment, we are studying this question. We don't know yet if we're going to put out a hollow call for projects or if we're going to be distinguishing between our self-sufficiency and the resale of electricity. We want to maintain a global approach, but we're currently looking into this. We're still in the process of studying this, so I can't really give you an answer. We're going to have to stop questions because we're running out of time. I'll come to see you in person. We're very sorry, but we are having to stick with our schedule. We're already over schedule and we haven't made our decision yet. So for those of you who are not familiar with the BDM approach, I'll bring you back to school. We've all got a blackboard and we're going to write two numbers on the blackboard. first number is points between 0 and 10 for sustainable coherence. This concept has been explained to each member of the jury. They got a fact sheet, such as the one you're seeing here. So if a project is very coherent, they'll get 10, and if they're not coherent, the score will be 0. And second, you've raised, there'll be points for innovation. So these are standardized points between 1 and 5. So it's down to you to judge if it's worth 1 or 5. It's not for me to tell you. And then each participant will be showing their blackboard to who? To whom? To Frédéric. And he will be doing the sums. And every member of the Commission needs to say in just a few words, just a sentence, what they think of the project qualitatively speaking. So I'll let you concentrate.
Bon, vous êtes prêts?
So are you ready? We'll start with Gabi. So very briefly, this is a very beautiful project. So coming from the private sector, so congratulations for this investment. Just one point about the, just one point for innovation. 7 for coherence and 2 for innovation. It's a beautiful project, and it's true that innovation is great in some aspects, but not across the board. Yeah, 8 points for coherence. I think this project has been really well thought through. Perhaps there's a bit too much solar protection, but and 1 point for innovation only. Marcus?
Much. I gave 8 for social coherence. I miss the interconnection with the neighborhood. And for innovation, I think it's a very straightforward project. For me, there are some new aspects, maybe because I'm from Austria, but I like this project very much.
Elizabeth actually innovated. You're innovating in your marking. Yes, I gave 8 for sustainable coherence and 1 for innovation. I think this is a very ambitious project, so it's great to see a bank actually get involved and take the risk to involve in a sustainable approach in today's context. I think that's very interesting. It's an ambitious project, but they need to be careful because there's a lot there, and perhaps they'll need to make some choices to ensure that they keep the focus on the most fundamental aspects. I've given 8 points and 2 for innovation. I think this is an exemplary project, and personally, I'll be talking to other clients about this project to tell them, look, this is possible. This is what they're doing in Manosque. I gave 8 and 2 as well. And like Marcus said, and like Elizabeth said, this is a project that has a lot, includes a lot, and you need to take the comments you heard today into account, including this comment. You'll tell Chantal about it. Because I believe that For instance, how will people actually walk to the staff restaurant of L'Occitane? Are they going to walk there or take the bus or drive there? These are details that can make a big difference. Now I'll hand over to Frédéric, who will be telling you about what's happening next. Oh, I'll give my points as well. The project received 75 points, 8 for sustainable coherence and 1 for bonus. So the total score is 84 points. So that's above 80 points. So it's reached gold level. So congratulations to the team.